All right, we got Jill figured out. Let's get back to Jill Tran, and let's start with some trends that you've been seeing. Naturals, I think, natural materials are still popular.
Yeah, we're still seeing a lot of natural materials. We've got rattan shells, kind of jute fibers. Kababe shells are popular. They're the kind of reflective shells that are so pretty. But really, a lot of natural materials, and I would also include cotton and linen in that, and also kind of the performance of natural. So linen is a little bit, it's got kind of a wrinkle to it. Those types of things that are still very hot, which is kind of almost transitioning a little bit to kind of a nautical look for a lot of people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Also, you say florals are popular. I'm wearing a floral blouse today.
You look fabulous, by the way. Yeah, florals for sure. And they're not tiny little prints. They're big and bold and, frankly fabulous, but they've got a lot of color and, it's in lighting. It's not just in fabrics per se. It's interesting to watch how the lighting designers are really incorporating a lot of that element into those. You can also see maybe furniture. They've got big poles that they've got big flowers on them or inlay of perhaps kababe shells, something like that. They're really gorgeous. A lot of color.
What about brass? This isn't the brass that we all painted over or turned silver or whatever years and years ago, is it?
A lot of cans of spray paint to cover the 80s. No, and that's the thing is, really half of a design of a piece is the structure of the piece itself. But the other half really is the surface or the finish. And so, a lot of it, I know some people are still having a hard time with brass. So I might even consider it more of a gold leafing, if you will. But
yeah, those
half
look more
of it is
gold
that
to me.
form. So the brass beauty and the texture and the finish of the brass, but more on a more modern element, if that makes sense.
Yeah, those are gorgeous.
I know, aren't they fabulous? That's
And
the second time I've said fabulous.
something else new is curves.
Yeah, so this is kind of, we were just talking about the 80s. This is kind of a nod back to the 70s almost, where, a lot of the furniture has kind of, especially like in upholstery, has, a good soft curve on the corners. Not only is it curved up to down, but it's curved back to front. So, things are kind of a C shape, from a bird's eye view, which is really kind of softening things. And what's interesting to me is the fact that those curves, whether they show up in upholstery or in perhaps like, I think there's a desk example that I sent in, is that's going to bump the cost of things up a little more. There's a little more of a, more skilled craftsmen have to make things like that with a curve. So I would expect to pay a little bit more for that look. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
Are you seeing that in new home construction too? I remember when we built our first home way back when, instead of the sharp corners on some corners, they did the bullnosed corners or something they called them, the curved.
That's a great question. I think that really was done by builders and construction guys, basically more so to take the beading that goes through those doorways.
Oh.
I don't think it was a style. I think it was for ease of use and daily living.
Nice.
So maybe also so your kid doesn't crack their head so hard, or we don't run into it,
All right, and last thing, let's talk about abstract art.
Yeah, so I just love this. It's almost kind of taken a nod from, kind of the tribal look a little bit, but, it's kind of, really kind of mumble jumbled up, it's really fun. I think to me, I always love art, and this is just a fascinating watch of how it's transferring to different things, where it is a little bit almost kind of going back to the native look, but it's also really getting more modern and it's playful. And I love that about it. I think you're going to see it in art. I've seen it in textiles. I think I've got a light fixture on there too. And it's just a mumble jumbled crazy mess. And it's a lot of fun. It's playful. And I like the energy it exudes. Right. I think modern art can either go happy, it can go sad. It's an expression. And so I think, to me, and everyone's different, but I think that light fixture is really fun and playful and happy.
Absolutely. All right, Jill Tran, thank you so much. You can find more design tips on Jill's blog. Just visit tranthomasdesign.com. All right, here's Russ and Sean in our script.